Hey, this is Owen. If you're comfortable, leave your first name and state at the sound of the tiny truck backing up.
This is Andrew from Iowa. Just say real quick, I love your channel, love the work that you do. I'm curious if and possibly where you draw the line on atheists going too far in activism. The case that comes to mind to me is the World War I Peace Cross case, which is American Legion versus American Humanist Association. Basically, there was a World War I memorial on government land in Maryland that included a 40-foot tall cross, and the American Humanist Association filed suit and eventually went to the Supreme Court. I think it got decided a couple years ago, like 2018 or 2019. The court decided that the cross took on a secular meaning and it stayed. So I totally understand where atheists would get annoyed with a giant cross on a war memorial, but also it's honoring dead soldiers. Like, maybe we relax a little bit on things like that. I also think that when evangelical Christians or the far right see things like that, it just gives them ammunition to think that they're persecuted. But I'm also a veteran, so I fully acknowledge that I'm biased towards the memorial. And yeah, that's about it. Anyways, again, love your work, love what you do. Just curious on your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I appreciate the phone call. Let me address it piece by piece. First of all, you said it gives them ammunition to, feel persecuted or whatever. You're right. It fuels their persecution complex, and that's a problem for sure. But the real issue here is the fact that that persecution complex exists by default anyways. Literally anything that we do is going to fuel that persecution complex. So when I make decisions, I don't base it off of how their persecution complex is going to get worse usually. I mean, it might be in the back of my mind to some degree, but I'm not going to let them get away with something if it genuinely should be done just because they want to feel persecuted. Now, regarding what you said about whether or not that was even necessary, let me summarize the case according to my understanding of it. From what I understand, there was a cross in a war memorial, like a big cross statue, and I believe this was on public land, right? On the public property. And I think the FFRF sued the city or whoever erected it because it was a display of religious stuff on public property, right? According to the Constitution, that is against the law. I don't know what loophole they used or how they got away with just leaving it up. I don't know, but constitutionally that is illegal. You're not allowed to have displays of religion on public property. Now, as far as how I feel about it, I'll give you this. Sometimes atheists do go too far in things. That's true. But we live in an adversarial system right now, for better or worse. There are people on each end of the spectrum doing things that they want to see done, right? If this group over here is the only one suing for what they want to do, and the group on the other end of the spectrum is just sitting around not doing anything, the Overton window, the window of acceptable public discourse, is going to shift over further and further and further. The FFRF may have been doing something a little bit extreme in that case. Like I said, I don't know that specific case very well. I can't speak to it. But if they do extreme things like that, like go a little bit over the top with what they're fighting for, it's only to keep things clear and in line so everybody understands exactly what the law is. If FFRF hadn't sued to have that cross taken down, we wouldn't know if that was actually considered legal or not. Every time somebody sues somebody else and it goes up the chain to like the Supreme Court or wherever else, it clarifies the laws for us. It makes it more clear where the country is morally and how we feel and what we believe as a country and how things should be. So I understand sometimes FFRF or American Atheists or whoever go a little bit over the top. I get that. But I want people going over the top sometimes so that we can clarify the rules that we're all expected to live by. If FFRF was denied in that case, now we know. That's not a part of the rules. It's just clarifying things for us. So I am in favor of them suing so that kind of thing doesn't happen. I am in favor of reporting teachers for doing things that are illegal in the classroom, for teaching kids about Jesus, talking shit about gay people, exactly what I went through and what Kylie went through. I believe in that stuff because it helps us clarify the rules and set precedents so we all understand what's okay and what isn't.
Hi, this is April from Texas. I was just wondering about how exactly Jehovah's Witness proselytizing works, like in terms of not exactly public places, but public living. Like, I lived in an apartment complex for a year and a half, and I was just down the street from a Kingdom Hall, and I never once got anyone knocking on my door, and I never saw anyone knocking on doors at the complex. So I was just wondering, why is that? Do they have a rule they can't go in complexes, or is it they would have had to make a deal with the landlord? Yeah, just wondering. Thanks.
I appreciate that. As far as I know, Jehovah's Witnesses have never made any deals with any landlords. Landlords probably wouldn't make a deal with them anyways. But aside from that, let me explain how it worked when I was in the religion. Things have changed since then because now we have technology. It's more widespread, and I'm sure that they use that to their advantage now. But when I was in it, they weren't using technology, though computers existed and were very prevalent and all of that other stuff. I'm talking 2005, 2006, this is how it worked in my congregation. The Kingdom Hall would print off just a gigantic map of the entire area, every district, every street that was in our vicinity that we were supposed to be knocking on. They would print out a huge map, and they would cut the map up into little tiny squares about this big. Usually the maps would cover about a full neighborhood, right? So people would come in, and they would check out these maps. They were called territory maps. And when they checked them out, the goal was to work the entire territory. We would go out in service. There would be like a car group leader who was assigned to take a whole group of people out. Usually a man who was leading the group as the spiritual head, because men are the head of women and children and everybody else, of course. Though on occasion there were women who were pioneers, quote unquote, would go out in service in their own car groups, and they could check out territories too. So they would check out these territories. We would work it, the entire street. Sometimes it'd take a month. Sometimes it would take a couple of weeks. Sometimes it would take 2 months. It depends on how often you go in service and how long you work while you're in service. After you finish working every single door in the territory, you return the laminated map to the box, and it goes to the back of the stack. You check out a new one from the front of the stack. So by doing that, any number of Jehovah's Witnesses can cover any amount of territory. You can have 10 Jehovah's Witnesses doing 3 hours of door knocking per week total, between each of them. And you could cover the entire United States by doing that, because and guarantee you hit every single door, because you're printing out the entire map of everything, and you're only working it in small grids, basically. In addition to that, let me add this little piece at the end. If somebody told them, don't call on me anymore, I want to be on the do not call list, don't come to my door again, they'll write down the house number and put do not disturb on the back of the card, or they'll add it to a congregational list, and they'll put the date, and they won't come to your house ever again, not for 10 more years. Every 10 years, they will revisit a do not disturb person to make sure, like, it's still, to make sure they still live there and everything, because people move pretty frequently. So that's how the do not call list works, and that's how the territory works. Now, in your case, you specifically said you live in a gated community. As I said before, landlords and Jehovah's Witnesses don't make deals with each other, as far as I know. I've never heard of that happening. If there's a gated community, they stay out. If there's a gated community, they stay out unless they know somebody in that gated community who explicitly gets permission from the people. But Jehovah's Witnesses have actually been known to open locked gates before, or open chained gates. They don't really pay close attention to the law. They kind of ignore no trespassing signs for the most part. They ignore locks and things like that. If they can get in, then they're going to get in. They want to save your mortal soul. That's been my experience with it.
Hello, Owen. This is Chris from Texas. I just saw a lot of articles talking about how religion is on the decline in the U.S., and some stuff saying that it's because of COVID or because evangelicals became too associated with Trump that they alienated people. I just want to know your thoughts on the whole thing. Thanks.
When Jehovah's Witnesses don't go to the Kingdom Hall for long enough, like if they go what's called inactive, where they're not knocking on doors, they're not really showing up to the meetings very often or anything like that, the elders will do something called a shepherding call. They'll go to their house, they'll knock on their door, they'll try to get them to sit down with them, they'll ask them why they're not coming to meetings or going in service anymore, kind of poke and prod them and harass them until they get answers. The reason that they do that is because they realize unplugging the programming means they're probably going to walk away from the religion. When you don't have that constant indoctrination flowing into your ear 24/7, basically, there is a risk that you're going to break out of the mind control. Jehovah's Witnesses know that, and that's why they try to prevent it. And that's basically exactly what happened with the majority of the country. People couldn't really attend church anymore, not safely, with COVID and everything. So they just kind of stopped going. And suddenly, they just stopped caring completely. That's how it works. That's how it happens. And that's why church attendance is down so far. Unfortunately, COVID and Trump have both had the added side effect of polarizing people dramatically. The center is shrinking a lot. There are fewer and fewer people in the center anymore. Basically, the choice that people have made for the most part in the country is either walk away from church completely and just give up on it and move on with your life, or become radicalized. Become, a church nutcase. Like, go way, way over the top with all of this. And that's kind of what we've seen. We've seen a lot of radicalization in the United States recently. And it's something that we're going to have to grapple with as a society at some point. We're going to have to deal with the polarization, radicalization, the hatred for the other side, the us versus them mentality that everybody seems to have. It's a problem. Cross your fingers and hope for the best. Maybe we can find our way through this as a country without some kind of a crazy civil war or something. On another note, actually, before I continue, check this shit out. I've had circumstantial evidence that YouTube, there's a flag on the back end of YouTube that they can flip that will immediately destroy your channel, basically, okay? I've had circumstantial evidence of this, but I haven't been able to prove it because they deny it when it's asked of them. I don't know, maybe a year ago, I did a video on, what was it? I did a video about a call that was made to the Atheist experience. This is on my main channel. And it was a Jehovah's Witness calling in, right? And there was some things in there that probably weren't super monetizer friendly. I uploaded it. And they demonetized it. And instantly, my entire channel started to fail. I was getting half the views, half the subscribers, half the everything that my channel normally generates for a full week. Eventually, what I ended up doing after my channel just decreased in size by 50% basically, I deleted that video. I removed the words that I thought they wouldn't like, and I re-uploaded it. And instantly, the very next video that I uploaded, my channel shot right back up to where it was before. And that's circumstantial, but that's pretty fucking, I don't know. It's pretty convincing, right? Well, I go about my life, and last week, the same thing happened. I uploaded a video that was encouraging people to get vaccinated. This is on the podcast channel this time. The video was monetized at first, and then it was demonetized randomly, like out of the blue. Like somebody must have reported it, and then it went to like YouTube, and some reviewer decided that they rated me encouraging people to take the vaccine. They rated it as me encouraging people to do a dangerous stunt that wasn't safe, like consuming things that aren't supposed to be consumed by humans. That's how they rated that video. Me encouraging people to take the vaccines. And the moment that video was demonetized by a manual reviewer, like 4 other of my videos were demonetized automatically. My channel started suffering. It went down to half the viewership that it was before. Again, just like last year with my main channel, same shit happened, right? So I challenged that first video, the one about the vaccine. I took it all the way to the very top of YouTube, talked to everybody that I could possibly talk to, and asked them to reconsider me encouraging people to take the vaccine is not harmful or dangerous stunts or whatever. And sure enough, within like 10 minutes, literally 10 minutes is how long it took them to approve it. They remonetized. That's extremely unusual. It's taken me a week before to hear back from them. Within 10 minutes, they remonetized it, and I went through and asked for manual review on all the other videos they demonetized. Approved, 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 approved. All of them were approved all over again. It's like a single anti-vaxxer manual reviewer went through my channel and demonetized all of my shit and then marked my channel as inappropriate. Flagged it with that flag that they say doesn't exist. After that flag was seemingly flipped off, the flag that I believe exists but have no concrete evidence for, I released a video the next day, and it was on Enrique Tarrio. It exploded again. It got like twice as many views as usual. Interesting, right? No concrete evidence for this, the existence of this flag, but that's pretty fucking strong circumstantial evidence, if you ask me. I've actually explained this whole thing in detail with screenshots of time frames, videos, and viewer counts, and everything. Laid it all out in a PDF to other content creators. And they were like, I don't know. I mean, there's no way to know for sure. I'm kind of skeptical. And I get it. I get being skeptical. There is no concrete evidence. It's just circumstantial. That's it. But this kind of pushed it over the edge for me. I believe YouTube does have that flag on the back end. Right now, my channels are not flagged, either of them. But I believe that they have been in the past and very easily can be again. And I believe they flag other YouTube channels and just destroy any traffic that they get. Last week, during all of this, you know how many live viewers I got? Some concurrent viewers on this video? 500 or 600. Of course, I was streaming on my main channel too, but that's irrelevant. I got 500 or 600 concurrent viewers. Now I'm up to 1,245 at this immediate moment. Interesting, right? I don't know. I don't fucking know. Who knows? I should write a book about YouTube and how it works and all of the little ins and outs that I've learned since I started it. I wish YouTube was more honest about things. Like, they've improved in a lot of ways with a lot of shit. Really, YouTube is way better now than they used to be about a lot of stuff. But I wish that they would just be honest about things so that we can figure it out and do the best that we can with with honest and clear information instead of trying to fucking guess our way through this whole thing. Satan's little helper. With all these televangelists making false projections and giving false information, do they not realize they're hurting their own cause? Do they not see the more radical they get, the more followers they lose? Well, it depends. The thing is about radicalism, the more radical they get, they may lose some followers, that's true. But the followers that they do have will do anything for them. Anything. It's an enthusiasm factor, and you can measure it in presidential candidates and things like that. Enthusiasm was high for Donald Trump in 2016, but low for Hillary Clinton. There were fewer people who wanted Donald Trump as president in 2016 than wanted Hillary Clinton, but Donald Trump's base would crawl over broken glass to vote for him. That's the key difference. That's why enthusiasm is important. In the 2020 election, enthusiasm for Biden wasn't very high as a candidate, but it skyrocketed because nobody wanted Donald Trump again. So it wasn't necessarily enthusiasm for Biden. It was enthusiasm against Trump. That factor played in to a high enough degree that Biden won the election. Enthusiasm is extremely important. I have 300,000 subscribers on YouTube, almost, right? I'm pretty close. Between my podcast and my main channel, I have 300K. But how many of those are like so devoted to watching my content that they'll donate $50 a month? If each of those people donated $50 a month, each of those 300,000, I'd be getting $15 million per month. That's the power of enthusiasm. And that's what these pastors, these evangelical extremists, are trying to leverage. They're trying to leverage the enthusiasm factor, and it's working. These people will crawl over broken glass to do anything for these extremist pastors. So yes, they do lose followers, but they gain enthusiasm. That's how cults operate too. These cult members will do absolutely anything for the leaders. Anything.